Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and I literally just got back home from the range. It is 9:40 at night, and I went and shot some footage for two upcoming range reports on two different firearms. And I really felt like I needed to get home and make this video because, number one, I need to show the two people that lent these guns to the channel what I discovered about their firearms, and show them the problems that I had, but also all this stuff is fresh in my mind, so I want to talk about it. And the two guns I took to the range tonight are on loan from Jack, but not the same Jack. Jack number one and Jack number two. You guys know I talk about both those guys. So I guess I'm going to talk about Jack number one first, okay? We'll go in chronological order. The gun that I took to the range was the one I promised him I would move to the front of the queue. And that is going to be the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Compact, was this the Spec series, okay? So this has the compensator on it, it's OD green, beautiful handgun. And when I borrowed this from Jack, he told me he couldn't get this thing to run. He says he was having problems all over the place. Failures to feed, failures to, I guess eject. But let me tell you, this thing functionally ran like a top for me. I didn't have one issue whatsoever. I was running 115 grain at first, Winchester white box. Then I moved up to, in fact, I think I still have some extra here. I ran some Winchester Super X 124 grain full metal jacket. I ran a little bit of Winchester 9mm NATO. This is 115 grain, but loaded a little bit hotter. And I also ran some Remington Golden Saber full metal jacket. Is that right? Yeah. So that is what I shot through this thing. I did not have one problem with it at all. It fired everything. No issues. But I did have some problems with this gun. And the problem I had was the sights. Okay, so Jack has installed a Votatu red dot sight. And let me show it to you here. Now, I'm not sure if this is one that came with the gun. I believe I have reviewed this in the past. And this gun shot so low. I mean, crazy low. So my first shots with the gun, my first time with it, way low. And I decided to not refilm that. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about adjusting the red dot sight. So I get my, tools out and I adjust it. And I did this off camera. I shot like 5 more. It was still low. And finally, I took the sight all the way where I put the red dot as low as it would go, so it would raise it was still low. And it was so low, it wasn't even functional as a sight. Like, it was so far off. And then I discovered, and even though this red dot is on here nice and tight, like it has no play with it whatsoever, you might notice, I think you can see it right there. Look at the front of that red dot right in this area, right here. Where are we going? I had it a second ago, right there. It is not level. And I think that's what's causing my problems. Okay, so no, I didn't have anything that I could get the red dot off and just use the iron sights. However, this gun is equipped with suppressor height sights, which are pretty sweet, and you can see them and use them through the red dot. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to turn off the red dot, and I'm just going to use the iron sights. But then I discovered another problem. Maybe because the gun has a compensator, and it adds a little bit of back pressure, this red dot lens in the front gets absolutely filthy after one magazine. I mean, it gets so filthy, it begins to obstruct your view. So I was having to constantly clean that, even though the red dot wasn't even in use. So after one magazine or towards the end of the magazine, it's so dirty, you can't use it. But then I discovered I'm shooting way, way, way to the left. So I finally got the elevation right using the iron sights. But I'm shooting way to the left. And I was like, okay, maybe it has to do with the light and how it goes through the lens. I don't know. It shouldn't have that type of warping effect. But then I discovered, and of course, let me go ahead and safety check the gun. We are good and clear to show you this. Then I discovered the front sight is way off to one side. Look at that. It is not center. Now, of course, I'm not bringing a sight adjustment tool to the range. Look how off that thing is. And now that's from Smith & Wesson. That's not anybody else's fault but theirs. So I reviewed it, and I'm going to have to talk about my problems with this sight because I couldn't see through the red dot after a magazine. The front side of the iron sights is way off. In this case, it's to the right, which causes you to shoot to the left. And then, anyway, and of course, I couldn't get the red dot zeroed. Sights were miserable. And what's even worse is my range has changed their targets. They used to have, if you go back and watch most of my range reports, I use the orange silhouettes. I forgot the actual target, like model number or whatever. They've changed it to black silhouettes, and you can't see the impacts on the target very well. I miss Orange Man. I need Orange Man. So, yeah, so I was having problems with this gun sight-wise. But function-wise, the gun ran pretty good. The compensator works. Recoil is super low. So it was not the issue I was expecting. I was expecting, because Jack said this thing was not going to run well. I mean, it ran great. Function-wise, not a single issue, not a single hiccup with this gun. I did my very best, and I'm pretty sure that when I make the range report on this gun, I'm always going to get those comments of people on the guns that I don't shoot well. You need to go get more training. Go train. I'm like, go watch my other videos, and you can actually see I can shoot pretty good with other guns. Some guns I can't, but I'll have to have a whole bunch of caveats on this range report. But anyway, this one's good. So, Jack, your gun ran great. So I don't think you need to send it back to Smith & Wesson. It ran like a top for me, and I showed you the ammo that I used. So no problems whatsoever. Now let's get on to Jack number 2, and let's review or talk about the gun of his that I reviewed. And it's coming back from the range in 2 parts. It's not bad, but it's not what I was expecting. Okay, so here we go with the Bren 10, but this one is in 45. This one on the side says the Logan Custom, and over here it says the Marksman Special Match 45 ACP. So these guns were originally in 10 millimeter. They made some in 45. This one is in 45. Now, when I film my range reports, just so you know, I don't film them in the order that you normally see them, like the progression of the range report. So, for example, my first shots are always my first shots. The longer or the further distance thing is always my second magazine or 2. The third part of my range reports are typically the shooting from a bench or the barrier test that I do. That's usually actually filmed last, and it's because when I'm at the range, logistically, it's easier just to have everything set up with, especially if I'm by myself and I have my camera. It's easy just to set up everything where the camera's in one place and film all those portions. The quick magazine change, the mag dump, whatever. And then at the very end, I can clear the workbench, there's the shooting bench, adjust the camera lower, get the stool out, all that kind of stuff. And I'll do the last thing that I'll film will be that 25-yard from shooting from a bench test. So I get to that portion of the range report where I filmed the quick magazine change, and I decided because this gun only holds 8 rounds in these magazines. You'd think they'd hold more because they're kind of thick, and the 10 millimeters hold 10. I thought this one would at least hold 9. It only holds 8. So what I decided to do is I had like 5 magazines, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a quick magazine change test where I go through all 5 mags. Okay, so the first test I shoot, I had a problem, which I will mention, and when you watch my first Bren 10 range report, I talk about how when you rack the slide on these guns, we have this little slide safety right here, and it's for decocking the gun. So essentially you have your regular safety here. If the hammer's back, you can put that safety on. But if you want to lower the hammer safely without having to pull a trigger and drop the hammer that way, if the hammer's back, you can push the safety in, which disengages the firing pin. Then you can safely dry fire the gun, and then the safety prevents that from essentially igniting the cartridge, right? So pretty easy to use. But when you rack the slide, sometimes you're going to grab it like this, and you inadvertently push the safety on. And I did that the first time. Okay, so I had one quick mag, tried to put the next one in, rack the slide, safety went on. Okay, so now I got 4 mags left. I still think I can salvage this thing. Okay, so I restart the camera. And what happened on the second one? Oh, yeah, the second one, I insert the magazine. I dump the first mag, reinsert the next magazine, and now we have one of the magazine issues. These guns were known for having magazine problems. The 45s in some of these mags don't get held in there very well by the feed lips. So what ended up happening is I picked up a mag off of the workbench or the shooting table, and I was going to go insert it into the gun, but it had already come out of the feed lips a little bit, so when it went in, it got stuck, and the round came out of the magazine, and it just got completely messed up. Okay, so now I got 3 mags left, okay? And I do show this on the footage, so I realized, okay, so I showed the safety problem, I showed that, and I'm going to talk about that in the rage report. So I got 3 mags left, okay, full. Okay, so we're going to salvage this thing, and I'm going to do a 3 mag quick magazine change test. So I proceed to do that. Everything works fine, okay? No problems. And when I do that test, I do point shooting. Essentially, it's like I want to shoot the gun as fast as I can, magazine in, shoot, 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 magazine in, shoot, shoot, shoot. I'm not really looking at the sights. I just kind of point the gun like it's a defensive use. So that worked fine. Brought the target in. Everything's great. Got the footage of that. So then I set up the workbench for the final test. Which is the 25-yard test. Load up the mags. I was going to shoot 2 mags through it. And so I got the gun like this. I turn on the camera. Take my magazine. I insert it. I drop the slide, and then I put my gun in my hand over my range bag like this. And then I discover something that's missing. And let me show you here. The rear sight. Yeah, the rear sight has come off. Now, in the footage of the quick magazine change test, I can clearly see the rear sight was on it. Because when I showed the problem with the safety, I bring it back, the sight is in it, and by the way, I did find the rear sight, okay? So the sight was in it, you can clearly see because I bring it back, I show the camera. And then when I start the test for the 3 magazine change thing, the sight's gone by the end. And I remember something hitting me here on the forehead. So the sight came off. And I discovered this thing is held in a really crappy way. So we have a roll pin right here on this side, a roll pin right here on this side, but the roll pin doesn't go all the way through. It's actually 2 roll pins, and on the rear sight, there's no hole for it to go all the way through. So it's 2 roll pins that you push in on either side, and I guess that is how you adjust the windage. So if you push one roll pin in, so it pushes the sight this way or this way. That's not a very good system in my opinion. But also, in order to adjust elevation in the back, you have a little set screw here in the front of the rear sight. But I guess the back of this sight is supposed to be spring-loaded. Now, I was able to find the sight on the ground. I spent 15 minutes on the ground. I couldn't find that little tiny spring. Now, I don't think it's going to be that important because you can probably buy another spring for something else. It's not like it's, a spring specifically designed for this. I'm sure another like D10 spring that you can cut down. But I spent 10 or 15 minutes trying to find this spring. And I feel horrible because on quite a few of Jack No. 2's guns that I have shot and reviewed, they've broken on me or I've had problems. Now, Jack has told me, he says, I'm sure glad I let you borrow these because I don't shoot these. And you find all the problems with my guns. Well, Jack, I found another problem. The rear sight of your Bren 1045 came off. And I discovered that the rear sights of these are installed kind of crappy. And I guess if these roll pins aren't, installed all the way, your rear sight can come out. And I couldn't find the little spring. So that's it. So that's the problems I had. So I had that kind of night. So I was able to film enough footage for this to do a range report on it. Luckily, the rear sight came off for the last test, so we're not going to get the bench rest test on this gun. But many of my comments are going to be the same as the Bren 10 and 10 millimeter. It's actually a pretty darn accurate gun. It shoots really well. The gun feels cheap, but it works, and I don't like certain features of it, like that frame-mounted, or sorry, not frame-mounted, the slide-mounted safety. But the rear sight came off. So I had a miserable night with these guns because of the sights. Red dot sights not working. Red dot sights not flush with the gun, which I don't think is Jack's fault because, as I said, this thing is on there tight, but there's definitely a problem. I don't know if I can get this. Let me see if I can get it here. Right there. Look at that. Look at all that space under there. Right here. Yeah, oh, there it is. Yeah, that is not good. Okay, so I had problems with that. It would get dirty. Then the iron sights are not adjusted right because that front sight is way off to one side. Come on, Smith & Wesson. Jeez, I was having problems with this thing all over the place. I don't know. So that's what happened tonight. So I just had to share it with you. And I'm going to send a link to this video to both Jacks so they can see what happened with the guns. I think Jack, number one, is going to be very happy because his gun runs great. He doesn't need to send it back to Smith & Wesson. Function-wise, it's awesome. He needs to do something different when it comes to the red dot sight. So I don't know. It looks like everything's installed right. I don't know. I'll just have to see here. I don't know. I mean, everything's fine. But maybe one of the I don't know. Anyway. And I'll ask him if he wants me to adjust the front sight. And then I had the rear sight come off with the Bren 10 and 45. So I was just having a miserable time with sights. And then the targets have changed color. They're no longer orange, where you can clearly see where a projectile went through it. Now they're black. And in a dark range, you can't see where you're shooting. Oh my gosh. This is the joy of making content. Because you always want it to go well. You always want it to go well. And then you have these problems. So anyway, that's what happened. So Jack number one, your gun runs great. Your sights are way off. Jack number two, I'm sorry. Your rear sight fell off. I broke another one of your guns. So tell me what you want me to do. I will see if I can find some type of spring to make this work. I probably have something, and I can cut something down, and I can, push those roll pins in a little bit. I guess they're roll pins. Let me see here. Maybe they're an Allen head screw. I don't know. Maybe they're threaded. Either way, it's a stupid design. It might be Allen. It might be. I'll have to check. But anyway, it's that little screw right there. It looks like a roll pin to me, but I think it might actually have a Allen wrench head on it. So maybe that's what I got to do. So I can put it back in. I got to figure out a spring for it. So I can kind of make it work, but anyway, there it is. So that's what happened. So I think you guys can guess what the word of the day is going to be for this video. Sights. Because I was having problems with sights all over the place. So there you go. Let me know what you think. Because I'm a little frustrated. But I'll get these done. And I'm curious what you guys have to say. So both Jacks, thank you for lending guns to the channel. And I got good news and bad news. So that's both of it. So let me know what you guys think, what you guys want me to do. And tell me, anybody else, what you guys think in the comment section. So, as always, thanks for watching.